All right, so we got this last bit here. Admin time. I did notice that I forgot. So we want to clip these corners out because when you got the inside corners and you're using a round bit, which is basically a 5/32 bit he usually uses on aluminum, you're going to get that rounded corner there. And that's going to conflict. As a matter of fact, I have it over here on Radius Machine. But so that's going to be the problem, is that's going to conflict with the corner of this guy when they go to nestle that in. So you got to kind of deal with that. Now the question is, how does it look and what bit will he use to do that? Now, I know for a fact that he mostly uses a 5/32 bit on 090, even to cut it out, because it's fine. It just goes around. That way he doesn't have to do a bit change. So if you want to commit to a 5/32 bit, then I'll just grab this because it's a little bit over, and then you put it at the node, and then you hit trim, and there we go. So now that's notched and it's clearanced for that corner there to go in there. Now you've just committed this though to be 5/32. Should he want to use a 3/16, you got to make sure that this piece now gets put on the layer for 5/32 bit. Otherwise, the 3/16 will just skate right by and we're back. It's like this was for nothing. So you got to make sure. Now, I believe NRoute calls this tag, like you add a tag. I generally, when it's not an issue of looks, so on the skin here, it's not that they'll see this, but on this, you definitely want to keep it small. But you'll see that that's what I did here, because that sharp corner needs to fit. So this is what I guess NRoute calls that a tag. You have to tag that. What I always do is a 0.26. That way it clearances pretty much for 5/32, 3/16, or 1/4 inch. Now, very rarely have I ever heard him say, oh, I use 1/4 inch to really fly. I can turn up my feed rate and stuff. No, it's pretty much always a 5/32. But if you don't want to bet on it and you don't want to have an issue, then I set it for 0.26 and then I put it on the whatever bit. I let him choose. So if it is a 5/32 bit, and then it has no problem just getting in there and, but if this was only a 5/32 and then he chooses to get froggy one day and do a 1/4, well, it'll just go right over it and it'll miss out. So anyway, so we need to clip that corner, that one for sure. Now on this one, yeah, it's on the backside. And I can hear everyone saying, well, why don't you just grab a file when you're done? You can just take a file and make it square. Sure. But do you remember that? Like again, in the middle of all these channel letters we're doing, all this work we got going on, are you going to remember when your Lord's in this and you're juggling 15 things to grab a file, like in Grandpa's workshop, eating Werther's Originals, making birdhouses and stuff? Are we going to sit there and, handcraft that? Instead, I might just make the call. Nobody's going to see it in the back anyway. By the time it gets cleaned up, it looks good. So you just hit that and hit a trim. And that way it's clearanced. It'll look sharp from the side. Nobody's going to see the back anyway. But I might not make that. I might keep that way. And if this was jewelry, if this was meant to be super, super, super sexy, I might tell them that, hey, you need to do that. I might put a looky there and say, hey, grab a file, grandpa style, and make sure that gets notched out. But for right now, for what this is, I'm going to do that to save everyone time. That way the mental bandwidth, they don't have to spend trying to remember to do that. All right. So again, that just handles that little bit. So now we're ready. So what I do is you hit the N. So up here on mine, I have it all docked. So I hit N up here. But if you go to your go time and you hit N, you'll get my name is. So my name is what I use to create pages. And this names the page, which then becomes the file name. So I don't have to actually type a file name when I export. So this is where we start. So hi, my name is. So you have hot pages that are already put together for some of the stuff. I swear I hit record and then it's sirens. You hit this button here, and then that way it'll make the page with the material and what it is. And these are for the usual suspects. But if you're going to create your own, then the second one here is name page. So you bring down, this is pretty much, I mean, not every material we have, but I preloaded pretty much all the materials. And then this adds the what it is. So that's how I name my files. So that way it's easy to see. These are 090 AL, 090 aluminum, and then cabinet faces, frame pieces, frame parts. We might as well just do that because we're going to have frame parts, 090 frame parts. And I'm thinking, and again, this is where you kind of make the decision. Do you want to keep the top box separate, make a separate page? That way it's easy to lay out. And again, it isn't so much because all of this ends up on one big page in en route. That's how Jose rolls. But this is more about the guys in the back shop. Do you want to break it up to where it's easy here for them to kind of lay that out? And then the bottom box is its own, section. So that way they can go check those parts off. Or is it small enough, finger quotes, is there not enough pieces that if you try to do this all in one, it's organized enough? I might try to do top and bottom here. I'll do these ones in one page. That way this little nugget can go with these guys. That way this nugget doesn't get lost with a whole bunch of other parts. So let's go ahead and do frame parts top. And then make new page. And what it does is it puts it towards the left. So there's make new page, there's work page. Now we're going to do bottom, and I'm going to do BTM. Now the fun part about this is like it's like old school texting where you only had 140 characters, or old Twitter. This can only be 32 characters long, these page names. So I do have it where if it's too long, it'll yell at you and it will automatically trim. But you got to kind of be cryptic. So it's kind of fun because you got to be cryptic, but you also have to make sure it's making sense. So I'll have the frame parts top, I'll have frame parts bottom, and then we have the work page. So now we have flat cutout letters, and those are 1/4 inch. Now I might have a hot page for that. So let's go up here and 25AL aluminum F calls right there. So I'll select that, hit make page, and there you go. Now I like to keep the thicker stuff and the weird stuff over here a little bit. So 09 is the main guy. That starts first, and then flat cutouts, and then here's work page. So there's work page. So we have bottom frame, flat cutouts, and then let's do skins. So I'll just do, and I like a lot of Z's just for fun, and then we're gonna do all. That way we know that it's for both. So there's skins. Jiggies, we could make a separate page for jiggies, or the jiggies could go with who they are with. However, I have these kind of combined as one. So just because I'm showing you what's up, this is a learning process. We could do jiggies all. And I understand that it's IE, but for this, I like jiggies with a Y because it's more of a visual thing. And then make page. Okay, so now we rearrange again because I don't want jiggies to be first, but they are 09, right? And then skins is, I say after jiggies, and then frame parts. So I got frame parts top, frame parts bottom, jiggies all, skins all, and then 1/4 inch flat cutout letters. And then we'll also throw that plate on there. And then you just kind of look through and see if you got everything. Do you need to create things for push throughs? Do you need to create, and that's all here. See, I got, I got 1/2 inch clear acrylic, and then I have pushies right here. So that would be 1/2 inch acrylic pushies. You can make a page, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we got it here. Boom. Thank you for your service. Yeah, because I think we got everything, right? So now you don't need to be precious about it. You can now move things to each page. So I zoom out. And now we can just start grabbing and copying. So this is all flat cutout, copy, take it to the appropriate page, dump it. If you hit PC right here on Mr. Goodbar, that just page centers whatever is selected. So skins, let's just grab the skins. I have front, back, and I have these guys down here. So make sure I have everything. And then I dump it onto the page. And then I hit page center. And we'll deal with this in a sec. And then jiggies, since we decided to do it on one page, copy, make sure it's on the right page, page center. There we go. And now the fun part is kind of digging out what we need. So top box is pretty much just these 4 pieces. Copy, and we go to the very end, paste, page center. Okay. And then let's grab the rest of everything. I might even do like bottom box, or like mid box and bottom box, but those little chunks, it won't be that confusing. Copy, and then frame parts bottom. There you go. And then center page. Now save. Okay, there you go. Now we just need to go through. This is what I was saying. This is kind of like administrative work. The creative stuff, the decision making, like us trying to figure out, do we make this 5/8? Should we make that half? Like, where do I put this? Is this going to work? Remember when we ditched this center brace? Like all that stuff's done. This is just cleaning things up and getting ready to send. So, all right. So now we have everything save. And then I kind of just look at the top. That'll be that box. We have jiggies. That makes sense. Those are skins. And there's our flat cutouts. And there's our work page. Okay. So now let's start going through and clean it up. Now, if we go over here and grab send it, this is what you use to clean all this up. So grab this. We can hit, let's see, where's my icon? There it is. Icons. Don't need those anymore. We can go ahead and just grab stuff that is just literally extra. This is top box, right? So we don't need that, and we don't need that because that's on the other page. And we don't need these per se. Sometimes it's good to let, again, the router know. But see, this will be a nice, so similar to what we just said about this is going to be printed as an 11/17. So what we're doing here is not only are we setting this up for success for the route, but essentially this will be on 11/17. So if you have a work page like this, and then you try to make this on 11/17, you know what I mean? You're not going to be able to see any of this because it's going to be so tiny that like you're like, what is that? Because so that's why sometimes the reason for this is to make it 11/17able to where it's a clear, easy to see thing, and then they can go and check off that, yeah, I have this, as it comes off the router, and then that's how they build it. So you're building these pages not only to bring the information to route, but you want it to be 11/17able. Yes, that's a verb. That way it makes sense and everything doesn't get too small. So anyway, that's that. So now we're kind of stripping these out. Now remember, he likes the quantity 2 versus, so, just guys, I don't want to hear him cry. He'll start crying. So we don't need that. But these are all separate. These guys are the same. So we're going to go ahead and give that a quantity 2, right? Okay. Otherwise, let's go ahead and start stripping out icons out. We don't need that. This guy does stay, but we're going to put him like right here, because that way also it kind of helps, like even on the print page, things are kind of laid out in a way that, and you know what? Executive decision, we're keeping this on 09. It doesn't have to be quarter. So just to kind of keep it organized, this is the bottom of this, right? So I kind of touch that. That's the top of this box. This is the weird side of this box, but these are the sides of this box. Oh, I need a quantity 2 of these too. There you go. All right, so here's what I'll do is I'll get rid of that and I'll hit quantity 2 sets as shown. So this is the bottom box. And then I try not to make this bigger than that is. Oops. Hey, that. There you go. So I make that down to about 3. There. So quantity 2 sets is shown. Quantity 2. This guy's redundant now. So let's bring this over here. These guys, there's no need for this to poke that far up, but it's like to just kind of say, yeah, that's what this little, look for that little guy. We'll just put that there because that's at the bottom. And then we bring this home like that. And then again, I'm kind of thinking rectangular. So kind of like that. So this would be an 11 by 17 and things would make a lot of sense. So we could actually tuck that like that. There we go. So this is the main frame pieces that kind of makes sense with work page, right? Like these kind of are those pieces. And then these are cross braces for that. And then this guy has just the slightest bit of separation, and that's our bottom box. There we go. And then that's 11 by 17able. And then we'll clean all that up. So there's our top parts. Here's our bottom parts. And now jiggies, we've actually kind of got them all set up. That's looking good. And then here we'll clean these up. We don't need that because it's literally on the thing. Might leave that just so route knows what's up. We know that these have been flipped or mirrored. And I might just tuck that in because you don't want to tuck it to where you can't get to it. So like if it's at an angle or something, now you can't. Now you got to go over to that like lasso thing, that silly freehand lasso stuff, and go like this. So you don't want to tuck parts that are hard to get to. You want to keep them separated. Yeah. But if you can grab it like that, you can tuck that so it's kind of lets it know that's the family. So you can go like that. So that's the face. So we know that this is mirrored. This is front. That's mirrored. And we need two of those. And he doesn't know, route doesn't need to know that's symmetrical. There we go. So that, and that's, you know, that's 11 by 17able. And then flat cutout letters. We know that they're mirrored together. Maybe I just keep it like that. And there's our 11 by 17. Or, because it doesn't have to be like it is on the sign. Or you go like that. Either way. Actually, probably like that. And I leave that F there so we know that it is mirrored. Alrighty, that's it. So that's that. And now it's time to do the layers. So now that we have that, we save. So we just start working our way through. So we come over here to Launchpad. There's our layers machine. So we always need the basics. We need info words. That's why it's big and green. You got to have info words, period. And then I go ahead and do these three because you can always get rid of empty layers. But just in case, there's the three usual suspects. If you need a 16th, 8th, or a quarter, there they are. Or you can come down here and make your own. But those are the three. I need those. All of it doesn't work anymore. It was throwing up errors. I got to figure that out. And then your reference kisses. That's your next step. So you work, see, here's a frame. So there's the basics, reference kiss. On center shape, pretty much always. Do you need an inside shape? I don't think I did any inside shapes on anything, but I do know I have an outside shape coming up. I'll show you that. But it doesn't hurt to just go ahead and put them because it doesn't hurt anything because anything has an empty layer will get stripped out. I'll show you that. But look what we got here. That is a bend scribe. So now you got to put bend scribes. I have the top one loaded. It's the 045, 090. It doubled, make sure, hit yes. There you go. Do we have push through? No. Do we have stud mount? Not on this. Do we have island fill? No. Is it backed up acrylic? No. And do you need to do any kind of custom? No. Okay, so we're done. And you can see now send it is loaded. So every time you do that, it loads it on to send it. So now that we're good to go. Now while we're here, what's our material? So you hit info words, this pops up. What's our material? 090 aluminum. What it does is it takes the bounding box and does a percentage and puts it over here. So whatever is selected here, or not even selected, but whatever's on the page, if you hit it, there you go. So it's sort of a percentage of the height or whatever, but I like to shrink it a little bit more, just like that. And there we go. And that's going to be, again, 11 by 17able. You'll see. So save. Now, InfoWords will automatically put this onto InfoWords layer. If you try to do this before InfoWords layer exists, it will yell at you and say, hey, do you want to create info words layer before I lay this down? And then you can say yes. Anyway, so it's a way of like double checking. So we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do info words, all the bits. I'm going to do on center, inside, outside, just in case. There's our outside. So I know we have one coming. And then this also is Ben Scribes. Anything weird? No, just 09045. So that's that. And we have info words already made. So now I'm just going to hit make that. But you can see it's kind of bigger because it took this into account. So we might adjust that a little bit. Doesn't need to be that big. This is just for the printout / route. So it doesn't need to be huge, but we want it to be clear and concise. Because again, when you're doing this on 11 by 17, if this is too big, then the 11 by 17 makes these tiny all of a sudden. So you got to kind of keep it in a ratio that, you can easily see what's going on here, but you don't want it to make it to where it dwarfs all the parts or dwarfs. Save. Jiggies. This is a lot more easier because you've got info words, all the bits, but there's no reference kisses, there's no nothing, so we can ignore all that and then just hit this, and you can see how much smaller it is because these boys are small. So I might actually bring this up a little bit, but there we go. And then skins, info words, boom, 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 and then on center shapes, yes. Do we have any outside? Nah, it's not necessary. Do we have any bends? Nope. So we're good. And then same thing. But you can see how much bigger that is. But if you leave it like that, look how small these got all of a sudden. So again, you want to kind of bring it in a little bit. And then that's better. Because when it's a sheet, you can kind of see what's going on. And then flat cutout letters. So this one's got a little weirdness to it. Of course, we have that. So info words, the 3 different bits for throughs and shapes. Is there any reference kisses? Yes. I'd like to see a V bit on center. He'll make that choice. He'll probably just do a 16th or something, or he'll just say, I don't care, and he'll do it anyway. So whatever he's going to do. But I'd like to see V bit. He gets it though. Now there's no bends or anything, but there is studs. So if you go on layers machine here and go down to stud mounted tap holes, select the one you want. I have a list. You select 1024 stud. That lets him know. And then you create that layer. And that way he knows to set the depth, and he already has a strategy for that. So now all he needs to do is select these and then send that bit home. And you can see on send it, there it is. Info words, V bit, throughs and shapes. Now I'm gonna move this up. There we go. So I like to have it like that. So I have that, and then all the throughs and shapes are at the bottom. Starting with smallest and working their way down to whatever bit he wants to use. If he wants to load up a one inch diameter bit, you go. That's on you. But I've clearanced it for that. So whatever you want to use, you go. So that's it. Save. So now that we've got all of our layers laid out, thank you. Now it's time for send it to clean it all up. So let's go back. And this is where we strip all this out. That way we save this as a record of what we did. We do not need to mess with this. This stays the way it is. So now we're going to strip out. So first and foremost, excuse me, we're going to ungroup everything. Then we're going to hit Super Scraper. And you can see where it just grabs everything that's a jiggy. It grabs a nugget. It grabs center rectangles. It grabs all the stuff we used. And I just like to make sure that everything looks like it's supposed to be junk. There you go. And then now, if you get rid of this, there you go. That's all that's left is the through shape. Now, we did leave these. Usually I might clean that up, but I kind of left it just to show a point. But I might get rid of these on the wireframe because once these are in place, I don't kind of need these. So this is a little bit of a side thing. Having to make sure these get erased here. I might have went ahead and got rid of those at the other place. Okay, on the other level. Okay, so right now let's just do that. And that's good. Now I might do a duplicate check. Oh, there it is. Look at that. We have some duplicates. But that will get checked too before it gets sent. But I wanted to do it now so it's not annoying when we're trying to Because you get in this like, yeah, we're exporting DXFs. You push in the button, and then all of a sudden the brakes get put on because it's like, oh, we found duplicates. And it's kind of annoying. So I try to remember to run a dupe check early just to get it out of the way. Because otherwise, when you're in the zone, it's like, oh, it sucks. Anyway, so I'm looking. There's our nuggets. There's all of our jiggies. This is extra. Yeah, that's no good. But this is where it's important to name your through shapes because it's ignoring through shapes. That's a through shape. See that? So as long as it's named a through shape, it's going to stay. So that's why I select it. Super scraper. It ignores. It says carry on. Now this guy here, for some reason, I have to add the name of this is 3x3 aluminum rectangle tube. It's not on the enemy list. I need to add it so that those get dug out. And again, we're kind of back to this. I probably would have gotten rid of these at the other stage, so I don't have to do it here. Because if you forget, these get routed. You know, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but you know, it could ruin the part if you like forget to check for these. So as long as you're kind of on your game, you can get rid of these on the wireframe side. And again, this guy's showing up. So if I know that these are sprinkled everywhere, I'm gonna pick it. I'm gonna grab its name, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and search for all of them and get it over with. But that was it. Now I'm also going to switch to X-ray vision and make sure nothing's hidden under the filled pieces. This is why I don't like working with filled pieces until the very, very end. And I send them to the back. So that way you can see what's up. But sometimes you might have a hidden boy under here that's hiding, you know. So I like to go X-ray vision real quick, look for those double stacked hidden boys that you can't really tell. That also allows you to grab things as long as you can tell what color they are. Yeah, so I might switch to this so I don't accidentally move anything. That will help to get rid of these extra boys here. There you go, but just make sure I don't erase anything else. And then these are extra boys, right? Yeah, so we got rid of these. And then these guys. And then these guys. Save. Save, 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 save. Okay, and now let's see how bad this one was. Oop, there's the dupes. A lot of duplicates there. Okay. Alrighty. Ungroup. Save again. Try it. Yep. Okay. I think send it won't let you super scrape anything grouped. Let me check. I'm going to group that. And then I'm going to go super scraper. Yep. Dude, ungroup all shapes before proceeding. So you can't super scrape by accident leaving something grouped. So you got to make sure everything's ungrouped. Then hit super scraper and it, yep. All right. These guys should already be super scraped. Everything's there. We're going to hit duplicate check. And looks like there's duplicates nada. Woohoo. So we're good to go. And then skins. So when there's a lot of holes like this, sometimes there's some dupes. Let's see what we got. Oh, nothing. And because of the way we kind of laid these out, these are almost ready to go. There probably isn't any hidden things. So if we select this and hit super scraper, right, nothing. So everything should check out because we kind of clean these up already by default. Just how we make them, they're already like, because there's no jiggies, there's no layout inlines or anything like that. So all right, and then the flat cutout letters, same thing. Shouldn't be any. Oh, we forgot to put the info words. So info words, this is 1/4 inch aluminum. So you can see right off the bat on this list, 090 and 1/4 inch. Boom. And again, shrink this to where this doesn't make the proportions weird for. And maybe this F's a little big too. You can kind of bring that down so you can kind of tuck and then make this kind of tuck in. So that way when you make an 11x17, this actually gets bigger. Easier to see things going on. So we got 09, boom, boom, boom. Okay. So that's it. So now we have everything stripped out, clean. So on every page, there's only the things that are meant to be there, right? So we save. And now we use send it to parse the parts to each layer. And so this makes it really easy. So what I like to do is turn off into info words. So what you're going to do is you're using these guys right here. So send to layer, hide all, visible all, and don't hit delete until we're done. Delete automatically deletes any layers that don't have anything on them. So we use that to clean up. So like the inside and outside will probably go away, but so does layer 1. So anyway, so this is how it works. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off info words. So that way that hides that. And then you're going to make sure everything's ungrouped, because it is. Just go ahead and hit like Ben scribe. That grabs all the Ben scribes out of it. Send that to layer, hide. That gets them out of the way. Now you're going to hit reference kiss. Anything that's a reference kiss, which is a red thing like that, that is on center, hide. I'm going to go here down to the bottom now. Find through shapes sized. So this is a 5/32 bit. I'm going to hit that. And it's going to automatically select everything that's 5/32 bit sized. I'm sending that to layer. And then now I should have 4 parts left. I'm going to leave this up to him, whatever he wants to do. He'll probably do it at 5/32, but I'm letting him know I don't care. So that's letting him know that I've taken into account that there isn't any special nonsense. Now, there shouldn't be anything on the page. If everything is done right, you should be able to select. Everything's hidden. Now you can go ahead and hit visible all, and it brings everything back. Make sure you do not move anything at this point, because if you have a layer turned off and you move something, they will be apart from each other. The other part won't move. Do not move anything. Now hit delete, and you can see it cleaned everything up, because there was nothing on layer 1. There's nothing on the other stuff. So these are the only ones that count. Now, when he looks at his DXF, when he imports it to route, he turns these on and off. So he can say, I don't need info words, I get it. And then he can turn all this off, then only make visible reference kisses. Set up strategy, hide that. Set up the reference, these guys, there's your Ben scribes. Set up the strategy, shut that off. Where's all the 5/32 boys hiding? Let's go. Look at that. There you go. He'll set up the strategy, hide that, and then maybe use a 1/4" bit. I don't know. And then he can set that up. That's what that's for. Visible all, they're all there. There we go. So that's it. That's what you got to do, is you got to just go through those and now assign everything. So when you're starting out here, quantities, if we did this now, it would look for info words and it would automatically be on info words. But because we imported these with these are on layer 1. All of this is on layer 1 except this guy. This guy got made and put onto info words automatically. So assume everything's on layer 1, but everything needs to get off of layer 1 or you can't export. You have to make sure everything's off layer 1. So first and foremost, start with your quantity things, send them to info words and shut it off. Get it out of the way. Now we're dealing with parts. Let's do reference kiss first. These are all inside except this. See, I accidentally grabbed that. I don't want that. So I'm just going to grab up here, hit reference kiss. These are on center, send, hide. This guy, reference kiss, he's outside. I want the router bit to go on the outside of that square. Good to go. Now Ben scribes, hide. 5/32 bit, hide. 3/16? Nope, because these are 0.26 on purpose to go on whatever bit he wants to use. Delete all. You should see layer 1 go away. There we go. Visible all. Good to go. Getting the hang of it. These guys here, all of this was brought in contraband, so we have to send that to info words. You have to hit refresh layers because it doesn't sense. I could write a script where it'll sense the change in the pages and then automatically refresh that, but that opens up a whole can of worms because what if you're not doing that? Anyway. So I just did a 5/32 bit and now all I'm left with is that goes on whatever, hide, delete, visible all. So for something small like this, there's only a couple layers. So that's the way it works. Skins, yes. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I collect these because these are technically reference kisses. See these? So they will get, caught up. What's going on here? See, ooh, little buggy bug going on there. So hide all, visible all. Let's see, hide this. Yeah, okay, we're good. Huh. That's interesting. So this won't let me undo that move. Okay, fine. Don't let me prove a point. See if I care. We'll just put you back where you were then. Quiet. Anyway, so I want to make sure these get put on info words early. Hide. And then that way, these don't get false positive. Send a layer, hide. And then this didn't get, so that goes on info words, hide. There you go. So now all that's left is 5/30 seconds, a lot of them. Hide. 3/16 bit. Yeah, see, these are smaller than a 1/4 inch bit. So I want to make sure. So we are going to use the 3/16 layer, hide. And then if he wants to, these can all be 5/30 seconds. No, they can't because we decided that's 5/30 second. So you need to make sure that these, because my send it here, the macro is like, this is a giant piece. This, it doesn't know that you wanted to use that. So you need to be on the game and say 5/30 second bit, send a layer, hide. So these obviously are simple shapes. They can be whatever. But like I said before, there's a very good chance he routes the whole thing in 5/30 second, but that's not for you to decide. You need to give him all the info he needs. He can decide that. That way there's no mistakes, there's no problems. So now everything's good. If you hit delete, layer 1 goes away. We're using all the layers. Layer 1 goes away. We're good to go. And last but not least, flat cutout letters. Again, I'm going to send that to info words, hide it, get it out of the way. I have one reference kiss. There it is. That goes on VBit, hide. Again, I'm just ungrouping just by habit. And then bottom tap stud hole. So again, I can just grab that name right here, down at the bottom, go, and then that goes there, hide. Okay. And then the rest of this, sure, you could make the decision that we want that as fine as possible, but I'm also going to let him make the decision too that he knows that's rubbish too. So if he does choose to use a 1/2 inch bit and radius this crazy, that's kind of on him. I'm going to let him make that decision. So I'm sending all of this to, unless we get something from sales or Jim or somebody says, this has to be a 16th bit, then I will set up, and I might even put a note up here in InfoWords that says, hey, word from the top says it has to be a 30-second bit, and we're going to be snapping bits all day. But, hey, that's what we were told to do. But he's been doing this long enough. He knows how we want. He knows what looks good. He also will ask if he throws a thing on this and he sees that this is completely like Doughboyed, Pillsbury Doughboy gooey, he might ask them to say, hey, this is what it's going to look like. What do we do? Anyway, so I'm going to go whatever bit, hide. So this is pretty easy. So we just have visible all. So we have our info words, we have a V bit, we have bottom, top, and save. Booyah. That's it. So work page, all that. So I'm going to do one last break, and then I'll show you how to use the exporter to just literally push button all of this. And you do not have to type you almost don't have to type a word. Yeah. So anyway, coming up.